Hello and welcome to UK Versus. Today we're going back into Star Trek style realms. I've done a product unboxing, I've talked about the basic 1v1 rules, and now I'm going in to take a look at the multiplayer rules. This game is designed for more than 2 people as base, and with additional cards you can even get up to 6 players, and there are formats that are specifically designed for multiple players, which is very, very cool, and there's some very unique takes, and the expansion potential into this is very, very cool. The multiplayer rules is kind of what drew me in, especially when we get to raid, but that is going to be saved till the end. So if you're only here to see me geek out about the expansion potential of raid, skip down. No idea how far away that is. That is a you problem, not a me problem. So the first multiplayer format is free-for-all. Similar to 1v1, it is for 3 players plus, and essentially you decide randomly who's going first as you do in the base game, and then each player takes their turn going clockwise. This is the basic multiplayer format, similar to the base game. First player starts with 3 cards, everybody else draws 5, and the winner is the last person standing. Unlike the 1v1, you may attack anybody's bases and anyone's outposts throughout your turn. You don't have to lock into a singular opponent for that turn. You can deal X amount of damage to player 1, X amount of damage to player 2, and X amount of damage to player 3 as player 4. This would be the most basic and standard multiplayer format. Then we move into Hunter. Hunter is very similar to the free-for-all play. You random decide who's going first. That player gets 3 cards. The player going second gets 4 cards. And then everybody else gets 5 cards. And then on your turn, you may only target the player to your left with attacks either to bases or outposts. It basically becomes a Hunter fight where you have to keep taking out the person to your left and work your way around the table in order to win. So if you're player 4, then you take out player 1, player 2, player 3. And just like with the free-for-all, the last player standing wins. This is just a bit more restrictive version of the free-for-all because you can only target the player to your left, which means you need to be paying close attention to what the player to your right is doing, because they're the ones that are going to be attacking you and set up your defenses there, and monitoring what the player to your left is doing, because that's the person you need to take down. Makes very hard to manage information. It is a very taxing mental load format because you need to be aware of what 2 players are doing at all times. But it sounds like a lot of fun. A faster version of Hunter is Hunter First Blood, which basically is the exact same rules, but rather than being the last player standing, you win the game if the player to your left is knocked out. So this is a lot more aggressive, a lot less to track, because you're not just keeping an eye on what everyone's, because when you need to take the rest of them down, you're solely focused on defending your authority and taking down the player to your left. This is a very powerful, very quick format where you're just going, okay, either I'm going to die or you're going to die, and the game is over once one person goes down. Compared to the other free-for-all events and the other ones we've seen, this is a lot more linear and a lot quicker. Hydra is a format that requires an even number of players, either 4 or 6. In a 2-player team Hydra, then you would have a starting authority of 75. In a 3-player team Hydra, you'd have a starting authority of 100. It is essentially a 2v2 or 3v3. All players on the team share authorities, but have individual play zones. So you cannot use the locations or outpost abilities of your allies, nor can you trigger your ally abilities from your allies. Bit counterintuitive, but you need to have them in your own play zone. Authority is shared, combat, trade, and abilities in play are all your own. They cannot be shared. Starting out a game of Hydra, you randomly decide which team's going to go first. Every turn is played at the same time. You do not take turns throughout your turn. Everything is played. So if you want to get something from the trade pool, you need to discuss it quickly or you will lose it. Because if someone else in your team takes it, the starting team, as always, starts with 3 cards, and then the team going second gets 5 cards. Each team takes their turns and has their main phase, draw phase, discard phase, and draw phase at the same time. So even if your turn is over, you need to wait for the other people in your team to finish their turn before you discard your ships and any remaining cards and resources, and then draw back up. In Hydra, as we mentioned first, once your opponent's team's authority is reduced to 0, that team is defeated and your team wins. You do have a shared authority, so it is everyone to manage that, and your turns will go very quickly and be very impactful. So you're looking at trying to get through. One of the very cool things about Hydra as well is, as long as one player has an outpost, the team cannot be attacked. So as long as I have an outpost in play, doesn't matter if my other two teammates or my other teammate have no outpost in play, because I have an outpost, our opposing team needs to take that one out first before trying to deal damage to the team. This makes outposts very important, a lot more important than the base game, and keeping a constant cycle of outposts down is going to be very impactful because they don't have a collective combat. So if you can get a powerful outpost down, it's going to make it a lot harder for them to get through. And if you can keep getting outposts down, you can essentially stall, but you also still need to deal damage yourself. Hydra seems like a very cool, very cooperative format where if you're not working together, you're going to be picked apart. Very iconic for the game. The last multiplayer format is Raid. Raid is very cool to me because it is essentially a raid battle. You have one player who is the boss, and then the remaining players, whether that be 2, 3, 4, 5, are the ones trying to take down the boss. So the boss's stats are dependent on how many people they're up against. The raiders, however, start a standard game. However, the boss goes first. So each raider starts with a 5-card hand, 50 authority. They may look at each other's hands, but similar to Hydra, they have their own trade, combat, and in this case authority. So they cannot rely on each other's abilities, no ally abilities, no combat, no trade. But this allows them to strategize more. When a raider is defeated, they may take one card from their hand, deck, or discard pile, and then into each of their teammates' discard pile. Well, the rest of the raider's cards are put into the scrap pile. So when a raider is defeated, they take one card for each of their allies, and they put it into the discard pile, sharing their strength. But the rest goes to the scrap. The rest is removed from the game. They don't get into they won't be coming back for the trade. When the raiders are defeated, the boss wins. If the boss loses all their authority, then the raiders win. The boss's starting authority and hand size depend on the amount of raiders. If it's a simple 2v1, then the turn 1 hand size is 5, so they get 2 extra cards. And then their second hand size goes up to 7, so they're always having 2 extra cards on the other 2 players, but their starting authority is still 50. That's still very squishy. Then when we go to 3 and 4 players, we're looking at a starting authority of 70, a starting hand size of 5 or 6, and a total hand size of 7 or 8. And then in a 5-player combat situation, the boss will have an authority of 90, almost double. That is a 40% increase in their health total, a starting hand size of 6, and a continuous hand size of 8. Although in this situation, for Star Trek Star Realms, there is no additional abilities, this could be a great expansion point. You could get the Borg Cube, you could get a lot of the bosses, a lot of the big bads, a lot of the flagship or anomalies or situations like Q, and put them into an oversized boss battle card that has its own ally abilities for each of the factions, that has its own abilities if a raider gets knocked out, if it has its own abilities if you do something. And especially with the Borg raid would be so thematic, and the fact you just get to assimilate the other factions into your armada is just so cool. Raid is the one I'm most excited to play, and I really want to get a game of this going. I really do hope UVS put time and attention and love and care into getting this an organized play, getting tournaments, getting side events, because this game is so intuitive, it's so fast, it is so much fun just to get a quick game of this in, and especially if you chuck in raiders with oversized bosses, if we can expand into other factions, other territories, other spin-offs of Star Trek as well. We get into things like Deep Space Nine, Lower Decks, we get Enterprise, we can go a little bit further back, we get some of the movie stuff. This would be so very cool just to see how it's going to be handled, how it expands. But the raid to me seems so cool to just rock up on a queue, rock up on a bog, and look what kind of abilities that raid boss would have. Not only is the boss starting with a bigger hand size, more authority, but they also have their own special abilities that they can rock out from the start, which to me just makes it so much more imposing. So UVS, as much as I love the raid format as is in the book, please give us more. I want oversized cards. I want a raid expansion kind of, and that would be a cool kind of, not organized play because you can't really justify it, but if you got some like star tournaments, some star events going where people can walk away with oversized raid characters, and then they go, yeah, cool, I won this event, I got my Borg, I got my Q, I got my God, I got my Klingon super ship, and then I get to go, let's have a game. I will be the raid boss, you guys can come in, and we can then next week see if we can do it again. I mean, cool, that would be so cool. This game deserves to have the love and support. I've seen the base game, Star Realms, have a lot of support on Reddit. People want tournaments, and Star Trek Star Realms can feed that gap. So, yeah, these are the multiplayer formats. Free-for-all, Hunter First Blood, the Hydra team events, either two-headed or three-headed, and then we have the raid format, which is the one I'm most excited to see where UVS take this. We've seen oversized cards in the past with the Critical Role announcement. We've seen PvE from UVS with the Briarwoods. I want Star Trek Star Realms to fit that PvE sort of style, that 3, 4, 5 versus 1 multiplayer aspect seems so cool. So UVS, yeah, drop these massive cards, drop this raid format, let me know. And this is my third Star Trek Star Realms video. I don't know at this point if people even watch it because I haven't even dropped the first video while recording this. I'm just hoping that people will be receptive to it and will enjoy this kind of content. If you're not enjoying it, do let me know. If you are enjoying it, please let me know. I want to expand outside of universes, but I'm not quite sure where to go. And Star Trek Star Realms to me seems like a good foot in the water for it's a UVS IP, but that isn't universes. But let me know, is this the kind of content you want to see? Would you like to see more stuff outside of just what universes is doing? Let me know. And if not, I can always just stick to universes. Catch you all in the next one, and live long and prosper.